Have you ever seen something so baffling, so fundamentally wrong, that it makes you question everything? That's the feeling rippling through the media world right now. We're not just talking about a simple typo or a badly framed shot. We're talking about the BBC, the literal gold standard, the institution we're all supposed to look up to, getting caught in a scandal so bad, they had to issue a groveling apology to Donald Trump. And when a 33-year journalism veteran like Stephen Dixon steps up and says he's furious, calling it a deliberate act against every journalistic aspect, you know this is more than just a minor hiccup. This is a 5-alarm fire of journalistic ethics. My jaw is still on the floor. Let's break this down, because it's a lot. The edit that shook the media. So, what exactly happened? The BBC's flagship investigative program, Panorama, ran a documentary in 2024 called Trump, A Second Chance. In it, they covered the infamous January 6th speech. But they didn't just show the speech. Oh no. According to the BBC's own admission, they took excerpts taken from different parts of the speech and stitched them together. Let's just pause there. Imagine someone recorded you all day. At 9 a.m., you say, "I am so frustrated with this traffic." At 3 p.m., you say, "I could just scream." What if they edited that together to make it sound like you screamed, "I am so frustrated with this traffic, I could just scream"? It changes everything, right? In this case, the BBC's creative stitching gave what they now concede was a mistaken impression that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action. This is the dictionary definition of a smoking gun. It's the one thing everyone was debating, and the documentary presented it as settled fact by simply manufacturing it. Stephen Dixon unleashes, "This was deliberate." This is where the story gets its real fire. Stephen Dixon, speaking on the People's Channel, was visibly and righteously fuming. And frankly, who can blame him? This wasn't just mild disagreement. This was a man who has dedicated his entire adult life to the craft of journalism, watching its core principles get torched by the very organization that claims to uphold them. I tell you what, it is hard to get your head around, as a journalist, that anyone would do that, Dixon raged. He's been in the business for 33 years. He knows how an edit suite works. He knows the checks and balances. He knows the layers of producers and editors and legal oversight that are supposed to prevent this. And that's why his next words are so chilling. There is no way on God's earth that anyone could do an edit like that, one that changes the fundamental point of what he said, without knowing you are doing something that goes against every journalistic aspect. That is a deliberate act. A deliberate act. Let that sink in. He's not calling it a mistake. He's not calling it an error of judgment. He is calling it a calculated, intentional decision to mislead the public. He is accusing the BBC of malice. This is the gut punch of the whole story. If Dixon is right, this isn't an egg-on-your-face moment for the BBC. It's a full-blown betrayal of public trust. It's not a simple error, it's a lie. The other side, humans make mistakes. Now, to be fair, not everyone was on Dixon's side of the fence. Political commentator Matthew Stadlin quickly jumped in to defend the BBC, or at least, to defend the idea of the BBC. "I don't believe that's what they did," Stadlin countered. "I think they made an editorial misjudgment." His argument is the one we've all heard before, and it's a reasonable one. Unfortunately, where you have human beings, and the BBC is staffed by thousands of human beings, sometimes you make mistakes. He's not wrong, we all make mistakes. We've all hit reply all by accident or made a bad call under pressure. Stadlin's position is that this was a colossal fup, but a human fup nonetheless. He argued that the system, in a way, worked. The mistake was made, it was identified, and the BBC did what it was supposed to do. You apologize. And that's what they've done. For him, the idea of suing over it, which we'll get to, is absurd. The core conflict, incompetence or conspiracy. This is the real heart of the matter, isn't it? Who do you believe? Is it Team Stadlin, who believes this was a case of catastrophic incompetence? A producer got overzealous, they were trying to condense a long speech, they made a terrible call, and it somehow slipped past the checks and balances? It's a plausible, if deeply unflattering, scenario. Or is it Team Dixon, who believes this was a case of calculated malice? That someone, or a team of people, knew what the speech didn't say, and decided to fix it in the edit to match their desired narrative. that they deliberately created a direct call for violence that didn't exist. This is why Stephen Dixon was so furious, because in journalism, the difference between those two scenarios is the difference between an honest mistake and an outright fabrication. One is a firing offense, the other is an existential threat to the entire industry. Trump's reaction: I have an obligation to sue. Of course, the man at the center of this storm isn't just going to accept a quiet apology. Donald Trump is, as you'd expect, livid. The BBC's apology was meant to end the controversy. Instead, it just gave Trump the validation he needed to go on the offensive. Well, I think I have an obligation to do it, Mr. Trump told Fox News, talking about suing the BBC for defamation. You can't allow people to do that. He's framing the BBC's apology as a confession. I guess I have to, he said, accusing the BBC of defrauding the public and admitting it. He even made it an international issue, pointing his finger and saying, "This is one of our great allies, the BBC. The government has a big chunk of that one, I guess." This single edit has now escalated from a panorama segment to a potential international legal battle between a US president and the UK's national broadcaster. The sorry, not sorry apology. And what about that apology? It's a masterclass in corporate damage control. Here's the key line from the BBC. We accept that our edit unintentionally created the impression, that this gave the mistaken impression that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action. They are apologizing for the impression, not the intent. They are validating Stadlin's editorial misjudgment argument. But here's the kicker: buried in the original reporting, despite apologizing, the BBC strongly disagree there is a basis for a defamation claim. That is the legal firewall. They are saying, we're sorry it looked bad, but we didn't defame him. They are admitting to being clumsy, Stadlin's view, to avoid being found guilty of being malicious, Dixon's view. So, where does this leave us? Honestly, it leaves us feeling angry, confused, and deeply, deeply cynical. Stephen Dixon's fury feels like the only sane response. He's a man who believes in the rules, and he just watched the referee join the other team. Whether it was a deliberate hit job or the worst misjudgment in broadcasting history, the damage is done. The BBC has shattered its own credibility and handed a nuclear-powered "I told you so" to every single person who screams fake news at their television. This was Panorama. This was the BBC. If we can't trust them to literally play a clip of a speech without chopping it up to change its meaning, who can we trust? It's a betrayal. And as Stephen Dixon so rightly pointed out, it goes against every single aspect of journalism. It's hard to get your head around, indeed.